This is the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning's light they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Verse 2. And they covet fields, and they take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory. Call hello Allah Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah Waha Racha Kodash Barakatham. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who told me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim out of four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and sincerity, risking their lives and the freedom to do so. Shalom to the Akwathani Akim out there listening and learning. Lord willing, this edifying video. Shalom to the confusion of faith brethren join unto our ranks. Once again, it's the brother Yawasap out of the GMS Cleveland Church, a fellow servant, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, with another lesson out of the book Mass Control, Engineering Human Consciousness by Jim Keith. And I'm on chapter 12. It says Jolly West and the Violence Center. And we're just going to start and jump right into it. It says, Salakia. It says, Air Force Major Louis Jolly West signed up early on as a co-conspirator in the CIA's MK Ultra, although most of his activities in the program are shadowed. In the most famous event of his career while he was chairman of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Oklahoma, West injected an elephant named Tusco with a huge dosage of LSD in an experiment supposedly designed to provide insight about animal behavior. Not surprisingly, Tusco collapsed into a stupor, and while trying to bring the elephant back to consciousness with a variety of drugs, West succeeded in killing the animal. West lived in Haight-Ashbury in the summer of 1967 and was supposedly involved in a project of studying the hippie in its native habitat. This was at the time that the CIA chemists were allegedly collaborating and setting up laboratories for the production of LSD in the Bay Area, and one can only speculate just what West was up to. West was in charge of the Department of Psychiatry at UCLA and director there of Neuropsychiatric Institute until his death in 1999. In 1973, during Ronald Reagan's governorship in California, West proposed the creation of what he dubbed the Center for the Study and Reduction of Violence that would have been located in an abandoned Nike missile base in California. In a letter to Dr. J.M. Stubblevine, the Director of Health in the California Office of Health Planning, West said comparative studies could be carried out there in an isolated but convenient location of experimental or model programs for the alteration of undesirable behavior. West said that there were certain factors that initiated toward violent behavior, including sex, age, ethnicity, and urbanicity. In a secret memo, he discussed projects that the center might employ in more detail. He said now by implanting tiny electrodes deep within the brain, it is even possible to record bioelectrical changes in the brain of freely moving subjects through the use of remote monitoring techniques. I'm going to get a scripture. Book of Ezekiel 28. This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 28. I'm going to get to the point. In verse 3, Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. And this is talk about Esau, the red Hebrew Edomite, aka the devil. Did you not hear what I just said? This man said that they had secret projects that center that employed Slovakia. They said that they had secret projects that the center employed. He said by implanting tiny electrodes deep within the brain, it's possible to record changes in the brain of freely moving subjects through the use of remote monitoring techniques. So people had these, these electrodes in them without even knowing, and they was monitoring you. And I got another scripture, Psalms 80. Slovakia. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, another scripture. This is the book of Psalms 64. I'm going to start at verse 1. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O Yahweh, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. And who is the enemy? These Edomites. Slovakia. Esau, a.k.a. the devil. The wicked. Verse 2, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And that goes, to the epitome, or to the height of it is, these elite, these bankers and these rich elite families, these banking families. But, who do you think employed these people to come up with these techniques? Who you think came up with these? Who you think funded this shit? You know what I mean? Man, that's all I really wanted to get. Because like I said, in secret they're doing this. That's why I said they're monitoring them, and remote monitoring techniques. They are not feasible for large-scale screening that might permit detection of a violent episode. A major task at the center should be to devise such a test. Other techniques that West planned on using on violent offenders at the center included castration by chemicals, drugs for mood manipulation, and brain surgery. The center would collaborate with the California State Police and share a database that would keep track of pre-delinquent children in order to treat them before they became delinquent. And foreshadowing of programs currently in operation in Clinton's Goals 2000. One critic of West was Dr. Isadora Zifferstein, associate clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute. We have a new situation on our hands, Zifferstein said. Because of the intensifying economic decline, it is inevitable that more and more jobless will go beyond the limits of the law to satisfy their needs. There are probably upwards of 30% of our population who are permanently impoverished. And once these 30% become convinced that the democratic process is not working for them, they become desperate and may resort to violent means. And that's the spirit, because, this book was written in 2003. And look what's going on now. Why do you think you got all these uprising and protests? Uproars of the people, because they're standing up to the injustices. Like I said, you got the. Well, I'm not about to go into detail, but you got the Apostle Tahar, and I believe Apostle Tahar and Elder Malcolm went into the different uproars and protests around the whole world, and you got people standing up because the lack of, basically because they see the basically unfair practices. You know what I mean? Like, you got over in France, they're standing up for the economic woes. Showing you how at the end of the day, while people I remember America used to always make jokes about France. You know what I mean? Call them pansies and whatnot, but they standing up and look at you, red-blooded Americans. You know what I mean? They continue to allow these government officials to rape them, literally. Bear with me for a second. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 13. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. I'm going to stop there.